You deserved everything you got. This is a union city.
That is a Philadelphia tradition.
Seize the means of podcasting.
Oh God, the boss has crushed us.
Let me tell you one thing else.
In oldie-timey times,
Who said it? Kanye West or Thomas
we
Paine?
will not raw dog reality for that one.
The pleasure of the flesh is in solidarity.
The Scab Buster.
It's going to be wholly unprofessional.
Keep together strong. Let that be your mantra.
My name is Sam James. I'm the Popo host. Wee woo, wee woo. Jesus Christ. And today I am joined with who?
I'm the Pope's host. Gabe Christie. I guess I should share my name.
Pope's host?
Mm-hmm. I host the Popes
How often?
every day.
Daily?
Mhm.
That must be like a crazy security risk
You probably.
for you.
Yeah. There's a lot of them.
A lot of what?
A lot of popes.
Today we're going to learn about.
So this I didn't expect the topic of today's episode to actually tie into my current life, but it does. Yesterday, I spent 2 hours on a Zoom call with community members asking questions of a developer who wants to build a big, expensive apartment building right by my block.
Okay.
So we are gonna talk about public housing in Philadelphia
Oh.
because only 9 out of the 90 units have to be affordable, and you still can't afford those units if you're making minimum wage.
This is going to be a depressing episode.
A little bit. So that's the most, or my most recent experience with the joys of the housing situation in Philly. But over the summer and early fall of 2020, do you remember?
No, I don't remember 2020.
Well, yeah. I mean, let me rephrase that because we don't recognize the existence of that year on this podcast. In the second summer and second fall of 2019, there was...
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. There was a big protest and encampment on the Ben Franklin Parkway. The James Talib Dean Camp. It was named for an activist who passed away over that summer. So the encampment popped up on the Parkway during that summer, or during the second summer of 2019. In part because due to the COVID pandemic, there was reduced tourism on the Parkway, so you could more easily get that set up. But also because the city has basically refused to effectively deal with its lack of affordable and accessible housing.
I mean, well, should they? Is that their problem?
I mean, maybe.
If you can't afford a place to live, that sounds like a you problem.
Yes, but we live in a society.
A society, yes, but if I may Jordan Peterson for a second, what is a society? Do we need a society? How long have we always been societing? If we have not always been societing, then maybe we don't need to be further societing.
But to Jordan Peterson back at you, lobsters have hierarchies. In order to have a hierarchy, you need to have a society.
You have convinced me.
So we have
I
a society.
believe in God.
There you go. And that's why I host the Popes. So this was both a protest and actually something of a housing solution because they were actually providing food and medical aid and like services to the unhoused population in Philly.
Okay.
Which was
A nice thing to do.
yeah, it was great to see. And I should say these are activists doing this. It wasn't the city of Philadelphia providing that.
You did not need to clarify that point.
Yeah. What the city was doing was on multiple occasions sending in cops to try and close it.
That's what the city's going to be doing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Um,
That's what I expected.
But that actually ended on a little bit of a positive note. They got something of a deal. I think it was they housed 50 families, which
Out of
I think there was an estimate of 300-ish people in the encampment. So
okay, that's not too bad.
yeah,
I mean, that's something the city would say. We house 50 people
yeah,
out of 5,000.
yeah.
And 50 families, too.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it was progress. There's still a lot of work to be done, but it did show like direct action can work.
Sure. Well, I mean, like every inch is progress.
Yeah.
Or that's what my wife tells me.
So
Let that one work its way in, Gabe.
Oh yeah.
We both have time. I think that's about 3 of those jokes.
Is it in yet? But that was my introduction. That wasn't actually the topic of this episode.
Oh my God.
We're gonna go almost 100 years back to the Great Depression.
What? No! No!
And talk about how the Philadelphia Housing Authority got started.
Oh my God.
It's a more interesting story than it sounds. But
it sounds very interesting. It's for the wrong reasons. Like interesting as in watching a house on fire is interesting. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It
that's a
looks
fair
pretty
point.
and you know, but once you start thinking about Gabe, just talk about the Great Depression.
Yep. Well, conveniently with your house on fire story, this story starts with 2 houses in South Philly collapsing.
Okay.
Um,
I'm kind of like a Nostradamus.
Yeah.
But I'm more like a Nostradamus. You know what I mean? I'm like I'm half right.
It's close enough.
Just read the first part of whatever I say, and then just go with that.
I mean, honestly, you're more accurately predicting things than Nostradamus ever actually did. So, but yeah, so in December of 1936, 2 homes in a predominantly black neighborhood in South Philly collapsed on their families. The family survived, but were immediately hospitalized because they had a house collapse on them. That's not great for your health.
No. That doesn't sound like it would feel too good.
No. And basically everyone in the city, or all of the like working class people in the city, who weren't either landlords or in city government, focused their blame on the landlords and city government.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So the landlords were blamed for allowing many of the buildings in their chart or that they had to fall into disrepair. It was also very clearly laid out that they were letting the houses in black neighborhoods just kind of fall apart.
I wonder why.
Yeah. Then the city was blamed for not enforcing stricter standards for building maintenance and basically just allowing the landlords to get away with whatever they wanted.
But we're not going to disparage the good name of the landlords
No.
of this great city.
No. Then, weirdly, Grace Kelly's father,
Okay.
Jack Kelly, so Grace Kelly's father, Jack Kelly, was a up and coming member of the Democratic Party at the time. And he had been kind of pushing his way towards a mayoral run.
Mm-hmm.
So he went out to the press and immediately blamed the Republican administration of Mayor Wilson.
Re-elect Mayor Goldie Wilson.
But Jack Kelly went out and told the press that this catastrophe is plainly due to the neglect of some city department. Where human lives are endangered, the safety of human lives takes precedence over property rights. It would be great if we could get either party to say that today, but
No.
no. So then surprisingly, the rhetoric really quickly shifted from just blaming the Wilson administration and the city and landlords to calling for public, cooperative, or affordable housing. So the Philadelphia Record called for, as civilized citizens of a great community, we are on trial. If the right to live in a decent shelter is not a human right, what is?
Okay.
So that was kind of cool to see housing as a human right being called for.
And this is Great Depression still?
Yeah, this is 1936.
Wow.
Surprisingly, Mayor Wilson actually listened to all of these calls for reform.
Yeah.
I don't think he did it out of any kind of...
Goodness of his heart.
No, I think he did it because Jack Kelly had almost won the mayoral race in 1935. So, amidst all of these wealthy white men arguing with each other, the black community in Philly was very angry because they were bearing the brunt of all of this.
Yeah. They have houses falling on top of their heads.
Yeah. So you started to see organizing and demands for both to alleviate the poor conditions of the existing houses and to build new homes for the unhoused population. And once that agitation started, then the labor movement joined in. And one of the arguments that they were making to their own membership, and not both like publicly and to their own membership, was that the having guaranteed housing would make it easier for you to make demands on the job.
Yeah.
Because then you're not going to get evicted during a strike or something. So the Central Labor Union and the Labor Housing Conference demanded that the federal government had to finance large-scale planned housing developments on a nonprofit public utility basis. So they were basically calling for
public housing.
Yeah, for large-scale public housing. So you started to see these two separate movements coming together on this issue, for slightly different but overlapping reasons. Then, while all of this was happening, Mayor Wilson hired more city building inspectors and stated that they would tear down every derelict home in the city.
Okay, good on you, Goldie.
Well, some people...
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
This is why I don't... All right, okay, go ahead.
Some people were supportive of that and were like, yeah, we should tear down all of these houses.
Wait, are they going to tear them down with the people inside of them? They're going to tear them down with the people inside of them, aren't they, Gabe?
I've not found any evidence of that happening.
Can you do these Great Depression ones by yourself? And I'll come in and I'll just do a song at the end?
Yeah. No, I need someone to talk to so that I don't get too depressed. So the black community members, whose houses were most likely to be condemned, wondered where they were supposed to go once their houses were torn down.
Oh.
And...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Now I feel bad about... Yeah, tear down their houses!
So Mayor Wilson's response was...
they put him up in a Holiday Inn.
I mean, actually worse than that.
They put him up in a daze and that bastard.
They offered to put them up in the city's armories. And basically just put them in set up a bunch of cots.
Jesus.
In all of the armories around the city, which, like, yeah, you're giving people a roof over their head, but that's not the same. With all of that resistance to being put up in armories, Wilson backed down and was like, okay, we'll do inspections, but we won't knock your houses down.
Okay. Saints. We got nothing but saints in our elected positions. I gotta tell you that.
So then the Black community expanded on that victory by creating the Tenants League, with support from the National Negro Conference, the Workers' Alliance, and the Communist Party's International Labor Defense. So there's a bunch of really radical organizations coming in to defend
that's a hell of a mix.
Tenants League. Yeah. So then the Tenants League very quickly became a really vocal advocate and agitator for housing rights. And they also, while it started in the Black community, it pretty quickly spread to an interracial organization that was, because in Philly, honestly, the worst housing was in predominantly Black communities. That was still their primary focus, but they had, once the CPUSA got involved, it kind of broadened to their multiracial working class coalition approach.
CPUSA is Communist Party of the United States of America?
Yeah.
Okay.
It gets really tiring to write out Communist Party of the United States of America every time, so...
¿Qué pasa?
¿Qué pasa? ¿Qué pasa?
Hey, ¿qué pasa?
All of these organizations came together and basically forced the city to create the Philadelphia Housing Authority. I should also say that there was like federal support for this with the New Deal. So it wasn't just Philadelphia doing it. But I think Philly is one of the somewhat unique in that, like, there were a lot of cities that established public housing around this time because there was federal funding for it. But because of the, like, consistently corrupt politics in Philly.
What?
Yeah.
What?
I know.
What?
It basically took almost a working class uprising to force the city to do something.
Most things come about because of that.
Yeah. So the PHA, or the PH, started
with a pho.
Pho.
Gabe,
that's true.
be an adult.
Fine. I don't want to. They started to look for suitable locations for public housing, and then immediately ran into some problems. Namely, racist neighbors coming out and saying that they didn't want Black people moving into their neighborhood.
Oh, God.
Classist neighbors saying they didn't want poor people moving into their neighborhood.
It's the same guy.
Yeah, probably. I'm sure there was a lot of overlap. And then also real estate agents or real estate firms who didn't want their profit margins to be threatened.
What? Real estate agents?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
I know.
Think you know a class of people.
I know. The most upstanding. But they didn't want their profits to be threatened by people not having to go through them to secure housing. So the city initially wanted to concede to the white NIMBYs, which is not in my backyards, basically the white racist people who didn't want public housing near them.
Ladies and gentlemen, the white NIMBYs.
The only available location that they found initially was off of Ridge Ave. And that's where they built the James Weldon Johnson homes, which actually still exist today.
Oh.
Then they also built the Richard Allen homes off of Fairmount.
Oh.
So PHA actually did some really good work in the 30s. And
they're still standing, huh?
yeah. But it's Philly in the 30s. So there was some immediately...
Philly in the 30s.
Yeah. It's freaking Philly today. There was some immediate conservative white backlash.
This is unheard of.
Yeah. I want to specify that, and not to say not all white people, because that statement has a lot of problematic stuff to it. But I want to say that there was some really good, like, multiracial, class-based organizing going on in the city at the time. But there was also a lot of, like, fascistic movements going on in the city in the 30s. And then the normal amount of, like, racist and conservative movements going on.
For once in my life, I'm going to shut the fuck up and just let you talk, bud.
Well, now, actually, this is a group we haven't pissed off yet. That there were a lot of fascist organizations, starting with the Italian community,
Oh my God, no.
who were kind of swept up with Mussolini in Italy. And then after Mussolini's invasion of Ethiopia, there started to be a lot more anti-black racism and violence coming from the Italian community. So then, in addition to the Italian fascists, there are some good homegrown American fascists. It's, the Christian Front, which is a white nationalist organization led by the radio pastor Charles Coughlin, had organized in the city and started attacking both black and Jewish communities.
Okay. So
that was great.
Gabe, I'm sitting out the rest of this episode, but this is all you.
So the the racist and fascist backlash.
Oh, no, don't worry. That's my roof about to fall on our heads.
Yeah, good. Well, Philly housing has improved greatly since 1936.
Now roofs fall on white people's heads.
Yeah.
Equality.
Yay. So the racist and fascist backlash combined with infighting in the Democratic Party, which was at least from what I was finding, the like individual members of the Democratic Party in Philly were all just fighting with each other for party seats, rather than like, working together to do some good for the community.
I remember when they used to do that. Yeah.
So that basically led to the decline of the New Deal coalition that had created the PHA. Oh, really the New Deal coalition didn't create the PHA because it was created under Wilson's administration, but who was a Republican and sort of New Deal. But there wasn't the political support behind the New Deal in power anymore, if that makes sense. So, like, there was still a lot of grassroots support for all of the New Deal programs, but there weren't the people in power that were willing to enact it.
Okay.
So basically, the elected officials...
Yeah, so they went like, this stuff has been working, so we're not going to continue doing that.
Yes. So then after World War II, the PHA and public housing just kind of across the country got worse. Those interracial working class coalitions that I was talking about in the 30s broke apart because white workers were basically given the opportunity to go live in suburbs. So that wasn't good.
Hey, remember when we fought side by side on the front lines against fascism and racists?
Yeah.
What? Neither do I. Nah, fuck that shit. I got a white picket fence now, baby.
Yeah. I got a garage and car.
Mm-hmm.
And also because I need to start blaming my own community too.
It's about goddamn time, Gabe.
Yeah, I know. Jewish workers and
You're Jewish?
Yeah, surprisingly. It's basically in like the middle of World War II, Jews kind of started to be considered white.
Congratulations.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, it was kind of a more gradual process, and I should also say that this refers specifically to Ashkenazi Jews, which are Jews from Eastern Europe. There's Jews come in every color and shape. So anyone listening to this who's interested in like how the Jewish community went from being fairly, or I should say how Jewish community institutions went from being fairly like left-wing and radical in the 20s and 30s to being really fairly conservative in the 50s or in the 60s. Look up Jewish Currents and their writing on that because there's some interesting stuff about how like a bunch of wealthy folks came in and kind of took over the Jewish community. And it gets into like weird nuances within the differences between German Jews and Eastern European Jews.
Gabe, I feel
we're
like
way off topic.
I feel like the whole first part of this episode was just you wanting to lead up to this part.
I don't get to talk about it enough, but it's interesting. But getting back to public housing. So then the other side of all of this with like white workers being allowed to get into the suburbs and redlining making it literally or effectively illegal, sometimes literally illegal for black workers to get out of the cities. Especially in Philly, public housing was viewed as a very racialized issue because basically due to the ongoing white supremacy in the country, all of the black communities were treated awfully. And those were the ones that were dilapidated. So then because all of the black houses were in because all of the black tenants were living in houses that were falling apart because their landlords weren't doing anything to help them. They were the most immediate beneficiaries of public housing.
Yeah.
So then conservative and fascist and white supremacist propagandists were able to combine race and class and be like, hey, public housing is really just for black people. And that
just don't read any further.
Yeah.
Don't ask any more questions. That's it.
That's most fascist propaganda. It sounds, I won't say good, but
I know what you mean.
Yeah, it makes like a minimum level of surface sense. And then white suburbanites were
There's
also
some great ass band names you're coming up with, man. The White Suburbanites.
I don't know if I would want to hear them. Because it could either be like a really hardcore lefty punk band who's named that ironically, or it could be like a Kid Rock cover band.
Ugh.
And there is no in between there.
I feel like it'd be entertaining either way, just
Yeah.
for the wrong reasons.
Yes.
Not to disparage the good name of Kid Rock and Kid Rock fans.
He has a good name. So then, especially moving into the later 40s and into the 50s, as the suburbs grew, suburbanites no longer, even if they were like working class, they didn't view public housing as their issue anymore.
Yeah.
And it's also like they, well, no, they were probably pretty aware of the fact that black people weren't able to get out of the city. So, yeah, no.
Oh, I'm sure they were very aware of that fact.
Oh, yeah. So they allowed housing or funding for public housing to get cut since they didn't care about it anymore. So they would support that. And then all of this is combined over the last 80 plus years to create a situation in Philly where we have a fairly large unhoused population. Estimates are between 1,000 and 6,000 people in the city right now. That's a big difference, but that seems to, or those were the most consistent numbers I could find. And only 11% of rental properties in the city are for sale for below $1,000 a month.
Oh my God.
And $1,000 a month is basically what you make on minimum wage.
Yeah.
So you're not going to really be able to afford a house. So
as long as you can cut back your food, your heat, AC in the summer, cars, insurance, health insurance, car insurance, and all that stuff, childcare, just, maybe, I don't know, just having fun, maybe, go to a bar or something, and clothes. Then you'll be fine.
Yeah.
Then you'll be great. I mean, come on. One less avocado smoothie.
There you go. That's the solution.
There you go.
So...
But don't you dare touch our defense budget.
And the really fun part, and the way it ties into, our whole socioeconomic system more broadly, is if you don't have the security knowing that you have housing guaranteed to you, it's a lot harder to organize, because then if you get fired, you're probably going to lose your house.
Well, yeah.
So
it's almost like this is by design. It's,
Yeah. It's like, I forget, there's a specific way of explaining it, that it's like, it's not that there's an evil cabal of people sitting down and planning all of this out.
Yeah.
It's that
yeah,
if something doesn't reinforce the existing power structures, it doesn't happen. Because if it threatens those power structures, then it gets shut down. But I wanted to end this on a slightly positive note. So look up, if you live in Philly and you're having any issues with your landlord or are being threatened with eviction or anything like that, look up the Philly Tenants Union. They do a lot of good work in the city. And they can help you both, if you live in an apartment complex, you can organize with your fellow tenants, or they'll provide you with information on what your rights are and everything. Then also just go to the pha.phila.gov website, see if you might be eligible for housing, do whatever you can to get a roof over your head and safety.
that is a perfect way to end an episode.